And we're live. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to Holy Crap, the Vlogcast. Vlogcast that comes from a skeptical point of view to answer some of the questions of why. This vlogcast started as a combination of spite and the Streisand effect because people on Facebook really pissed me off left, right, and center and really don't understand you need to really be honest about things. Seriously. Part of this is to follow through with the old adage, sometimes the journey is more important than the destination. I'm your main host. I'm known as Shujin Tribble all over the place. You can find me pretty much everywhere under that name. At the moment, we are having a combination of technical difficulties and people not being able to be with me at the moment. I, unfortunately, at the moment, am sort of flying solo. I'll give you a couple quick pieces of information. I know full well that Brigid is having a problem out at her house. There are some serious storms out there, so power has been off and on at best, so we shall see. Heretic Woman is not feeling real great, so she's taking the night off. Not a problem. I did not hear from UnrenownedTech or Dalan. Don't know. Stuff happens. Joseph is, well, again, could be still sleeping, which is entirely possible. I did send him the message to let him know to, show up. And Joey, at this point, is still futzing with his system to try to figure out why the hell it doesn't want to talk through. Now, here's where it gets weird. We know full well that we can hear him. His microphone works. For whatever reason, system will not allow him to hear the production as it's going on, which is the problem that we've run into the last couple of weeks. Is what it is. We're still working on it. And as those of you that are watching on the video will see, Joe's busy working the stuff over, trying to figure a possible solution. We've run through a couple of things, courtesy of Google's help system, nothing of which has come through, which unfortunately is the way that it is. But I did ask him to kind of, keep me apprised as to what was going on and, work it from there and see what we get. I don't know. We wait and see. If Joe is able to hear me, he's going to let me know, because if he can't hear, the best that he's got is a several second delay. I don't know exactly how long the delay would be, but that's also going to eat up a lot of bandwidth on his side if he watches the video as it's streaming out to YouTube. So yeah, that may not necessarily be a great way for things to work. Sorry. But in any case, those of you that are joining us tonight, of course, welcome. Thank you very much. I do have, as I've said before, the live chat enabled, and I've got that up on the screen right now for myself. Trippin', how you doing? Good to see you. Sorry for starting a little bit late. Like I said, trying to figure if we can get Joe running, that would be wonderful. But technical things, man. Technical things. We'll have to wait and see how things play out, but we'll kind of work it from there. Depending as to how things are going, I may simply do something I normally don't do, and I may just put the host link out in the live chat and invite folks to simply pop in. Because don't get me wrong, I love talking. I love to hear myself talk, even with the noise canceling headphones. But, yes, I could talk 90 minutes. I could talk 120 minutes. But really, who wants that? Besides me. We'll see. Anyway, so seeing as how things are the way that they are, let me just go ahead and get everything rolling for you guys for tonight. Because, well, technical things aside, I got a show to do. So, with 5 minutes on the clock, your 5-minute freestyle starts right now. For those of you that are listening to the podcast and can't see me at this point, I'm sorry, you're going to kind of miss out on this one. Wakanda forever. Yeah, we went and we saw it. Little one and I, we went and we saw it. Black Panther. And we went and saw it a couple of days after it opened. And we saw it in 3D, because we've got to have this long-running thing. If a movie is good enough, we'll see it the first time, as normal. if it holds up, we'll see it again, and we'll splurge in order to get them the bigger, box office sales and such. And Black Panther was worth it. And I say that partly because it's a damn good movie. And I want you to understand that when I say it was worth it, the only seats that we really had available for the 3D viewing were in the first row. That don't work real good for 3D. It really doesn't. Because the whole time we're sitting in these reclining seats, which is all kinds of cool, with our heads on the back bumper over there. And in order to see everything that's going on the screen, we got to kind of turn our heads left and right to check and see what's going on, and that doesn't really work. Black Panther is a good movie. And I'm saying that not just because of the content. They had something that is difficult to make happen. They had a sympathetic villain. And I'm calling him a villain because I don't want to spoil anything for anyone. It's one of those times where I will admit, at the end of the movie, I cried. I cried for the villain. He is understandable. He is sympathetic. He's charismatic. And he was driven. He was everything that we would want the hero to be. But a good villain, an excellent villain, should be a character, should be a personality that if you were to look from their eyes, from their perspective, they're not the bad guy. They're the good guy. They're trying to make things work. And he was the good guy of his own story. I don't know that I can actually say that he was wrong. I don't know that I can properly say that he was right. But he was someone that made sense. And I think that that's what made this such an impactful movie. Leave the black actors, white actors thing aside. Leave the minority piece of it aside. This was a wonderful society to see. This was a bunch of people, an entire country that had never been laid upon. They were never corrupted. They were never strangled. They blossomed in their own way, and now they have so much to offer the world. And the arguments that were made back and forth throughout the movie are exactly what good science fiction is supposed to do. It's supposed to have us challenge ourselves, to question our motives, why we're doing, and what we're doing or not. And I say that this is a good movie because the impact socially that this has had around the world is absolutely astounding. $200 million in production costs, almost that much more in advertising, and they earned it all back in the first 4 days that it was released. Oh yeah. This is a good movie. This is a very good movie. This is episode 201 on the docket, Your Honor. Call it in the air. Yeah. Last week was episode 200, which, yes, I know. For those of you that were part and parcel of that, yeah, episode 200 was not good for me. Yeah, it was an extra long episode. Yeah, I know for well. 200 episodes it's a great number to work off of. But the real big one is going to be 208. And that's going to take a little bit of time to get to yet. We got a couple more weeks. That is the actual 4-year worth of show point. That's the one that I'm going to celebrate. And I'm going to see who we can get on. Because, I mean, why the hell not? And we'll kind of work it from there. And for those of you that are wondering, how was I after drinking a liter of wine by the end of the show? Not good. I will admit, I overdid it. I listened to the back end of the show to see how I was, because I was cognizant. I knew what was going on to me at the time, in the moment. I did not realize that my speech was not that good. I've always had a little bit of a lisp. I know it. I even had it back in elementary school. I went to speech class to try to learn how to adjust for it. And I got very self-conscious hearing the way that my lisp would come through far more. So I'm probably going to be a little bit more conscious and see what I can do about keeping my pronunciation a little bit better. Oh, as far as to, did I get hungover? No, not exactly. I did not trust myself to drive the next morning because, my muscles were a little twitchy. I did not like that. So I said, you know what? I don't really want to go driving. So didn't. I did, however, avail myself of the shower, which was probably a very good idea. No, I take that back. It was a completely good idea because, yeah, it was just not pretty. In any case, I have coffee to drink at the moment. However, no idea if we're going to have anybody on the show besides myself at the moment. But like I said, I may put the host link out there for folks. I know that we've got 2 people watching at the moment, so thank you. However, if you'd like to suggest, I do still have 3 beers left out of the collection. See, so if anybody wants to make a suggestion for me as to what I should try out, this week we have the caramel porter. This one. We have the Great Lakes Dortmunder Gold lager. And we have the Brooklyn Pilsner. So there we go. The caramel, the Dortmunder, and the Pilsner. I guess we'll figure it from there. And I'll just set that aside, and we'll figure out what I will try out, if anything, tonight. I don't know. We'll see. So the idea that tonight was going to be pretty much a free-for-all to see who would come up with whatever. That was kind of the idea, because there were a number of things that were happening over the last week or 2. And as we know full well, not happy. Really not happy. But, we see what happens with it all. And Joe just popped back in, and I'm guessing he has no audio still. Yeah, full reboot and nothing happened at this point. Sorry, man. Oh, that's right, he can't hear me. Mic still works, though. So here's that. Smile. Anyway, so let me at least get rolling with everything. As we know full well, normally I'd go ahead and check in with Heretic Woman, who is obviously not here. We don't have any new information on Raif Badawi, unfortunately, as usual. So is what it is as usual, sadly. So as of the recording of tonight's show, this is now 5 years, 8 months, 10 days since Raif Badawi was unjustly incarcerated for thought crime. Our hopes and our thoughts are still with you and your family. We're still hoping. So let's start off with the elephant in the room, because how can we not? Billy Graham's dead. Dead as a doornail. Dead as a church mouse. I think. I don't know. However it's supposed to go. And as many have already said, good riddance. Good riddance. I am going to screw up the quote, but Mark Twain basically said that he would not wish death or unhealth on anyone, but had read several obituaries that made him happy. Again, I'm completely butchering the quote and I know it, but whatever. It'll be what it'll be. Billy Graham long exceeded his relevance because he was one of the people that was incredibly relevant, is probably the only way of putting it, for pushing the right-wing Christian agenda here in the United States, and influenced groups around the world because of it. And truth be told, I tried to look up a little bit of information, and honestly, I really don't understand why. Now, granted, I did not live through the vast majority of his pickup with power and influence and such, so I have no idea why he ended up with the power and the influence that he had. I mean, to me, it's kind of like Tom Arnold. He's famous because he's famous. Some people understand that reference, and those of you that remember Tom Arnold, sorry. Trippin is asking, are they still planning on dragging his ass to Washington? Yeah. As a matter of fact, that's the word. And if you were following him over on Facebook, Dave motherfucking Foda, yes, that's his actual legitimate full. Actually, I think we're gonna see about putting a legal fund together so we can legally change his name. Streamed over on Facebook for a little while that the motorcade was behind him at one point on a highway. So, go that. Speaking of people pissing off Dave motherfucking Foda, Brigid, hi.
Hi.
How the hell are you doing tonight?
Well, it's been an interesting Saturday night. Between flash flood warnings and really strong storms and losing electricity for several hours. Just, yeah, a lot of fun.
Yeah, I let everybody know about that one, and yeah, everything's in seriousness. Everything's okay out by you for the time being, at least.
For the time being, I do have a friend that lives about 18 miles south of me that ended up having to evacuate, move all of her stuff, and she and the girls are safe, but rather stressed out at the moment.
Can't imagine why. I mean, the idea of having the possibility of your house suddenly relocated one county over, yeah, that'll kind of do that to you, I think.
It will, and the authorities down there let them know that it's going to be like one of these 200-year floods, and the people really did need to leave. So yeah, it's pretty
Yeah,
bad.
200-year flood. Yeah, for the second time in 50 years, right?
Or second time in 10 years. I mean, it's ridiculous.
Wait, I was joking around. Was it really one of those?
They've been having 100-year floods, 200-year floods, yeah, regularly every few years. It's ridiculous.
Lovely.
But climate change is not real, so we
No,
keep told.
no. I mean, we can believe in micro climate changes, but macro climate changes is a completely different animal. You know that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we will see. So Thanks for as you can probably imagine, things are running, forgive the pun, swimmingly over here right now, as you can probably tell.
Yeah. Hi, Joseph. And is Joseph having problems with his sound?
Yeah, still.
Dear.
Yeah, he's we found some information that should have helped, but at the moment still not working. Not quite sure what in the hell is going on. So he's trying, he's giving it the yeoman's effort, and if if he starts hearing us, he'll just pop right in and go, "Yo, I'm here," and if not, yeah, don't know. We'll have to wait and see. So since I was just mentioning about Dave, did you see him his brief stream over there on Facebook that the motorcade for the dead corpse of the month is going through his neck of the woods?
I did not.
He was
who's this for? Billy Graham or who?
Yeah, exactly right. That son of a bitch. And why am I going ahead and disrespecting that motherfucker, do you think?
Because he deserves it. If anybody does, he does.
Yeah, it's true. That's true. You know, it's one of those times I can actually call him a motherfucker, and it's not his name. So, Dave, you're off the hook, and Billy, I've got a picture. I've got a picture, and I just gotta put it up on screen. Give me a second, because it's worth it. I gotta find it.
And it's further confirmation that I do not need to be living where I'm living. I need to get the hell out of here. A couple of people at work were lamenting his death and how, you know, bereaved and upset that they are, and he was such a wonderful man, and blah blah blah.
Yep. So yeah, here's the one I want to go ahead and throw out there for folks.
I like that. That's cute.
Yes, for those of you that are listening to the podcast and not knowing it, it is an animated GIF of Fluttershy from the current My Little Pony series, who is very, very unhappy, who is yelling at someone, and it says, "If I had fingers, I'd be showing you one." It's one of those beautiful ones. Yes, I'm a brony. Shut up. I have my things, and I ain't hurt nobody. So you know what? You don't like it? I will show you the door, or a hoof, or something. I don't know. It doesn't really much matter.
My daughter likes to cosplay Shutterfly, by the way.
Oh, hold on. Did you just say she likes to cosplay as Shutterfly?
Yes.
Fluttershy.
Whatever. I'm not awake yet.
You want some of my coffee? It's good.
Yes.
It's a good call. So, oh, and by the way, Devin, hi, thanks. If he's going to heaven, why be sad? Do they not believe what they say that they believe? You know what, Devin? We've been asking ourselves the same damned question for a long time. Brigid, go ahead. Tell them why they're sad when they should be happy for him. Go ahead, tell them. Go ahead and tell them. Go ahead. You know the answer.
Is it because he's going to hell?
It's
because they really don't believe.
There you go. That's the one that we're looking for. You know full well.
Which is really interesting. I did a stint as a hospice respite person back in the 90s, and it's really odd that the people who are most religious struggle the hardest with dying. And I'm thinking, okay, if you think that you're going to heaven and things are going to be wonderful, why are you fighting against it so hard? Why are you so afraid?
Yep. I forget when the hell it was, but wasn't there the inaction in the Catholic Church about suicide? Wasn't that supposed to be to tell people to not kill themselves because we can't get money out of you if you die now, even though you might go to heaven, and set that whole, unredeemable sin thing?
Yeah, pretty much. It's all a racket. We know that.
Yep. Yeah, we do.
And dead parishioners cannot pay.
No, they cannot. So we will see. So I was just telling the guys a while ago that what I still have in the beer collection, and I do have one vote so far. So we'll see where this goes. What we have still left over at this point is the caramel porter. We have the Dortmunder Gold Lager and the Brooklyn Pilsner. So that's what is left from last week. Now, just to make sure that we're all on board on this one, Trippin had suggested that I go with the caramel to get that done and over with.
Yeah, because you probably won't taste any caramel in it anyway. So,
well, considering that the Java one, yeah, no
so
coffee
much.
taste. Yeah. So we will see. But Trippin had said, get the caramel done and over with. But after last week, try the Boston. So I don't know. So
save Brooklyn for last. Just because
my
Brooklyn,
hometown,
right?
Well, it's my birthplace. Okay, we'll get that. Brooklyn and Detroit are supposed to be pretty good brews. Don't know. We'll see. So the caramel. All right. Is that the caramel? That's the caramel. Caramel porter. So the question is this a twist off? I don't even know.
Yeah, that's what teeth are for. No, I did not say that. I'm kidding. I would never advocate using teeth on a beer bottle.
But you just did.
I was joking. I was being facetious.
Fuck me, man. Oh, by the way, last week's show.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I found out after last week's show?
What'd you find out?
I found out that a liter of wine is not a good idea.
Were you hungover?
No.
You went back and listened to the show.
The end of the show, yes. And like I told everybody, I am very self-conscious about the lisp that I've always had. I've known it's been there, but I try very hard to, be careful about it. Mm-hmm. I was not aware in the moment that the lisp had really come out a lot. I was cognizant that I was getting very thankful to folks at the very end, which normally would not be that much, but I realized like right after it came out of me, oh, that's the alcohol. Okay, roll it back, chill out. And I turned off the set and I closed down my thing and I went straight upstairs and I spent a lot of time in the shower because kind of needed to. It was the safest bet. Yeah. So anyway, so let's see. Puzzled on what type of stoner would think of adding caramel to beer. Well, don't forget. I mean, caramel is basically toasted sugar, for lack of a better way of putting it. I mean, yeah, there's other stuff that's added to it, but it's still sugar. I mean, just whatever. So, it has not been opened. I will not do that. So let's see. Is it twist? Let's try this again, preferably without ripping up my fingers. Ooh. It's turning. It's turning, but it's not removing. That's not a good sign. Oh, shit. No, it's not coming off. Oh, that's not a good... Oh, man. Seriously? No, it's not a twist. Oh, fuck. And of course, I don't have the damn thing with me. God damn it. All right, I'll figure something out. All right, fine, whatever. So I basically had said that I was going to just kind of leave the topics up and out because there was a lot of stuff that ended up happening that I didn't know what the hell to pick, if anything.
Yeah.
I really didn't want to go all Second Amendment meta research. I didn't want to go into guns and all that stuff. I didn't want to go into NRA. I didn't want to go into, you know, teach the kids and let them lead the way. I didn't want to go through so many things that are going on right now. But
That's a
you know,
pity because I'm pissed off at the way that people are doing the kids.
you know what? I th- I
I'm
think
like,
that's
how dare they? I mean, yeah. People being like, well, children should not be making policy. And it's like, well, if the adults are going to fail them like this and not do anything, who's supposed to do it?
yeah. I'm sorry. I'm trying to use a wrench that I've got in the office. Don't give me shit. Oh, move the camera over to me for a second over here. Okay. The wrench that I have in the office, this is the one that fits the cat, the cat. All of a sudden, English just became my third language. I haven't had a drop of alcohol today. This is the thing that fits the F connector on my cable going into the modem, which is over on this side over here. You guys who are listening, you have no idea which way I'm pointing. Just trust me, I'm pointing over that way. Okay, makes perfect sense. Trust me. But I've got this thing. So here's the thing that's kind of still on my mind. Something that I was taught one of my grade school classes. One of the teachers, and I couldn't tell you when this was or which teacher it was, had said to my class, and reminding you that my high school graduating class was class of 1987. So I'm 39 years old this year because my birthday's coming up next month. Thanks. The teacher had told us that my generation, was going to be the first stewards, very clearly had said, the first stewards of the 21st century.
Mm-hmm.
Reminding you that my age bracket now is fast approaching 50 years old.
Mm-hmm.
39 years at a clip. I'm going to say this in a way that I really don't like, but in a way, I kind of feel like we've failed on that angle.
Mm-hmm.
And it's disheartening in a lot of ways, but most especially because, as I'd said a couple of weeks ago, what is the major age bracket for the people who are in Congress and Senate? And they are quite a ways up there.
Yeah.
The people who've been there. I'm sorry?
Baby boomers, mostly.
Yeah. And very specifically, still the baby boomers.
Mm-hmm.
Holding on to those jobs like nobody's business. And somehow I kind of get the funny feeling that if we had had the opportunities, if we had pushed more, if we had not waited, we could have made so much more progress than where we are right now. And I really wonder if that's something that should be laid at my generation's feet. Because look at what these kids are doing right now, man. Seriously, those kids in Florida. Wow. Let's dabble on this for just a second. You like barbecue, don't you? Yeah, barbecue ribs, barbecue, whatever. So when they roasted Marco Rubio, how delicious was that?
That was quite delicious. And he deserves it for multiple reasons.
Yeah.
But
Don't mind me. I'm still working this thing over because I'm
I
going to
don't
open this goddamn thing.
I mean, another thing that I'm really struggling with on this is, Donald Trump. I actually had to say his name. I feel so dirty. Um, so I always call him 45. I just can't say the name.
No,
Um,
I'm with you.
he proposes raising age limits on, AR-15s, and all of a sudden the NRA loses their shit. And I'm like, why are you losing your shit? Because children should not be able to buy these things. There should be age limits. I mean, actually, they shouldn't be available to people at all, other than people in the military. But that's just, my
Well,
opinion.
okay, and you know what, we will skirt through that in a couple of minutes.
Yeah, but what is
Because we
wrong
kind
with
of have to.
putting an age limit on it? I mean, that makes sense. And these people are just hell bent against having anybody make any kind of regulation. They would get rid of all regulations if they could. And I'm like, what is wrong with you people? Just why? Is it
Yeah,
money? Is it greed? Is it power? What is it?
I think it's a little bit of all of the above. Hey, I got that sucker to actually pop open now. It took me using an extra screwdriver, but you know what? That's fine.
Got it done.
Anyway, yeah, I did. All right, so dig this is good week. So the one of the Facebook things that I sort of got involved with, nobody's responded directly to me. Somebody was talking about the boycotts of sorts that are starting to happen now, where companies that have had preferential treatment for those that were NRA members are no longer continuing those associations.
Yeah.
And one person had gone ahead and was complaining about, well, look at what's going to happen with all these people, with all this money that they're going to, we NRA people are going to boycott these companies, and with 5 million of us, we'll see what the hell happens. And I thought about it for a second. I'm like, wait a minute, 5 million. Okay, let's take your word for a second, because just for a second. So I went and I did a little bit of math. And I typed it. I actually typed it in the reverse order of what I'm going to tell you, but it's going to be much more interesting. NRA membership, over 5 million, as stated. Last general election voter turnout, 140 million. And then I put the link to a YouTube video from CNC Music Factory, things that make you go, So you 5 million people up against, you know what? Let's say 7. Let's say 7 million up against 140. You go right ahead, and we'll see how that plays out. But that's just me. I wasn't going to hit this point, but Trippin's kind of pushing into this one, and yeah, we can't ignore that piece either. And reminding you that Trippin at this point was using the Cantor caps lock voice for part of this. Some people get that joke. 4 fucking police officers stayed outside playing Rochambeau. Now, to be fair, they didn't play Rochambeau, but they stayed outside of the school when all that crap was happening. He continues, like teachers need weapons. Let's let me pose this over to you, because I had basically said this on several occasions, and it's kind of become part of my mantra. Item 1 is, my kid's school should not turn into a fortified bunker like Beirut.
Right.
You remember those images when we were kids?
Mm-hmm.
And the other one, and this is probably the biggest one, and I want your honest opinion on this. You're trying to say, in all seriousness, that you want to ask or compel a teacher to put a bullet in the brain of a student. I want your honest opinion thinking about it in those terms.
No.
Because that's exactly what 45 was specifically advocating for.
Hmm. Well, not only advocating, he was offering bonuses to teachers who were willing to, carry. That's
Yep.
just so wrong on so many levels. And one thing that I find interesting is some of these same people are all afraid of, the deep state and a police state and martial law and all this other stuff. And they're creating the very thing that they say they fear the most. And
Yep.
they're doing it willingly.
Yeah. Trippin is continuing to go in through here, and thank you. Keep typing, man. Don't worry about it. No. Teachers have too much to deal with as it is, trying to stay sane, which is exactly what you're saying. And as somebody who wanted to be a teacher once upon a time ago, I don't understand it. I don't get it.
Why not take the money and give the teachers what they really need, like smaller classroom sizes and, more staff to handle, mental health issues, give them counselors, give them tools that will actually do some good that they need.
Yeah, I mean, you know how often I love to go back to the federal military spending budget over here in the U.S. and how much money that could go to so much more better things. And there's a reason why I'm glomming onto that again, because that kind of comes back to a whole damn thing. And Stephanie, yeah, hi, thanks. And yeah, Stephanie's pointing out, and correctly so, 3 teachers died protecting their students.
Yeah.
Um, I I do not know if it is true or not. I did not get the check. I did not get the chance to check the veracity on it. But there is a picture that's circulating on Facebook, which is where I saw it, where, according to this picture and exchange, again, I do not know if it's true or not. This the teacher supposedly was in a wheelchair and had to think about this and told her students, if anything should happen, you run, you get away, and you don't worry about me. And the students basically answered back, we've already discussed this, and we will carry you. Like I said, I have no idea if this one is true or not, but the way things are right now, I would not be at all surprised if there was some level of truth to that one. You know, we've got to worry about this happening with kids now, you know. Years are out of
Yeah.
school. You,
Yeah.
I mean, you and I, when we went to school, it was fire drills,
Mhm.
and it was basically air raid drills, although they didn't call it that. You got, I'm sure. Well, you,
And tornado drills and yeah.
yeah, well, for where you were, tornado drills. Where I was on Long Island, there was no weather related drills because, well, what did we have? Hurricanes. Well,
Yeah.
we're normal for us. No big thing. Um,
This is just not something we were ever prepared for, and
no.
it was unimaginable. And the piece that really got me this week was seeing the dad down in Florida, the dad of one of the students who survived, and thinking, I was not prepared to have this discussion with my son. His dad was in Las Vegas and survived that mass shooting at the music festival. And then for his son to also survive a mass shooting, in another state, and that's just that really hit me hard. That, two family members in two different incidents, seeing that. It's become too common.
And there's the argument that's been made as far as to what should be done, what could be done, what would be legal to be done. Joey, did I see you correctly? Did I read your lips correctly?
I think so.
It works.
You are back.
Welcome.
Yes. Wait, is it playing? Wait. It's playing through my speakers.
That's okay. That's okay. The fact is, we don't have any echo, so it's okay. If it's working, don't fuck with it. It's working?
Yes, it's fully working. I had to do a complete fresh reinstall of my browser, and I am not using Google.
You decided Firefox?
Yes. However, it's apparently a different version of Firefox than commonly used. It's like Firefox Support ESR or something. I don't know.
You know what? I don't. We got
it
back.
So that's great.
Congratulations. It's good to have you back, man.
I have no idea what the hell
Don't know.
Chrome's problem is, but for whatever reason, it ain't working.
Yeah.
That's okay. So Trippin is basically saying, Joseph, good to hear you. No, it's Joey.
Finally.
Good close. Yeah, really. Could you watch the fucking language? God, the fuck is wrong with you?
Hell no, because for how many weeks has it been?
That's true.
I have tried to get in on this and try to participate, and
you missed out on last week because
every
100.
Every single damn time.
Yeah.
And welcome back. By the way, yes, the caramel. Yeah, no caramel taste. It's
I'm
beer.
shocked. I'm shocked.
Yeah, me too. Okay, so here's the piece that we kind of have to deal with. And I really didn't want to do this one, but you know what? I'm gonna go ahead and do this. One fucking comma. All this bullshit that we've been dealing with over the last 70 years, the changeover and the attitude on the Second Amendment over the last 70 years is because of one fucking comma. No lie.
The comma's just a pause to get your breath.
Yeah, bullshit. Now, see, here's the problem. For those of you that, let me pull it up really quickly so that I can read it verbatim. Where is the... Okay, Second Amendment to the United States Constitution reads as follows, and I quote, "A well-regulated militia..." All right, hold on a second. "A well-regulated, capital M, militia, comma, being necessary to the security of a free, capital S, state, comma, the right of the people to keep and bear arms, capital A, arms, comma, shall not be infringed. Full stop." Here's the problem. Who is it that's supposed to be well regulated? Is it the people? Is it the military? Who's supposed to be the check and balance on whom? That's the problem. Because if it's supposed to be, the military is supposed to be kept in check by the public, well then, motherfucker, we got a problem, because most of us do not have access to, what's the term that we... Oh, yes, drones with Hellfire missiles.
True, but they only have so many of them, and even though we have one of the largest militaries on the planet, compared to our overall population, very outnumbered. Now,
yeah,
this is going to sound crazy, but this is my take on it. I do believe that the intent of the Second Amendment is to ensure that should the government ever go rogue, it is the right of the people to bear arms to protect themselves from said government. Now, why do I come to this conclusion? Because the people who wrote that goddamn piece of paper had just fought for 4 years against a tyrannical state militia.
and to be clear, the British military at the time was the most fearsome force on the planet at the time. They basically went in and they rocked everybody.
Well,
Pretty much.
They do you know what they called the Tsar of Russia?
Was she the one with the horses, or am I thinking of the wrong one?
Well, pretty much all of them bore this title at one point or another. The Gendarme,
which loosely translates to
loosely translated, the peacekeeper of Europe.
Okay.
Need an example? Napoleon was kicking the shit out of a lot of people across Europe. Then the Russians stepped in.
Well, that's because they actually remembered to pack some winter clothes. What the hell is it with you? You were going ahead and using fuck this, fuck that, and all of a sudden you're cringing at
I'm trying
shit ass. What?
Well, being that this is not a Power of 10 show, I was attempting to clean up my language.
Whatever. It's just us. It's not like it's a couple of million people listening. It's not, is it?
I don't think we get that kind of rating.
Yeah, I don't think so either. Anyway, let's see. Stephanie is reminding, as far as to the Limeys that were over here on military duty, not the ones in the U.S. We did not send our best troops. Yeah, I know. Your best troops were the ones that were incarcerated over in Queensland. Tripping. Then why the hell?
Ouch.
Then why the hell are we letting Russians in the U.S.? Shit, Kalashnikovs are being made in Broward County.
Yeah, unfortunately, well, yeah, we're making a lot of, for example, a lot of people want to own a semi-automatic civilian-style Kalashnikov, and they're being manufactured in the U.S. now because we haven't been importing from Russia in quite some time.
Yeah, the way this is going, it might change, but that's a whole other thing for another show.
Yeah.
Yeah. So here's the problem. If the purpose of the second was to keep there are two ways that I have heard the Second Amendment's intent to be. First of which is the one that you did, which is the people, the civilian populace, should be adequately armed to overthrow, and I'm putting air quotes around that word for a second here, overthrow an illegitimate government.
If I may just point out one thing. In the language of the time in which this document had been written, the word militia was used universally to refer to a organized military force. Now, this is in contrast to what people think of today as a militia, i.e., a posse.
Mm-hmm.
They use two specific words, the militia and the people.
Okay. And no, go ahead, finish off.
Well, I was just going to say, the people has always been used in reference to the citizens of the country. That includes we the people, you know, the right of the people, all of that.
Okay. And Stephanie has also gone ahead and put the second one in there, which is the one that I tend to subscribe to. And Stephanie is putting it this way because it's pretty much right in line with the way that I have said it. Stephanie's saying, quote, I saw an interpretation of the second that was the militia. Forgive me, I'm putting inflection in here that is not written just to make it flow correctly. You guys know full well I get super paranoid about making sure that I try to read it the way that it's written. But this is one of those times where I'm putting inflection just because I have to. Forgive me for that. I like to be super clear about this, super paranoid about this stuff. I saw an interpretation of the second that was the militia was the state's militia to stop federal forces becoming a dictatorship. That is the interpretation that I have had. My rationale was this. At the time of the writing, the states, the individual states, the colonies turning into states, were their own mini countries, for lack of a better way of putting it for a second.
They were, well, specifically why they used the word state. They were sovereign states.
Right. And the idea was that the United States federal umbrella, for lack of a better way of putting it, was the overseeing body that collected each under its wings, again, so to speak. And the idea being that each of the individual states would have their own, whether standing army or ad hoc army, as the case may be, so that they could protect themselves individually, or if necessary later, to mobilize and amass in conjunction with others to retake control from the overarching federal government level. Now, to that end, my idea, God, some people are going to have all kinds of shit to say about it. And you know what? Bring it on. To me, my idea about this would be weapons of war, semi-automatic rifles, for instance, that can shoot 200 meters at a clip, no pun intended, and, you know, shoot through a helmet, should not be out in the civilian populace, in civilian hands, in civilian houses, regardless of the method of holding on to them. My belief is that there should be, in each county, at least one place where the state has a storehouse, a barracks of its own running, properly maintained, properly logging every last thing. And if you want to have access to a weapon, you go in, the same as if it were going into the army. You go in, you get tested, you get retested, you get checked out, up, down, left, right, sideways, doesn't matter. But when all is said and done, if you prove that you have what it takes to be part of the state's militia, you have access to weapons to train at the barracks. If you want to take out a weapon for hunting purposes, you got to sign it out. You have to sign it in. You have to account for everything. And if there's a problem, you get your ass handed to you because it was your responsibility. Now, that's me. I am probably the person that a lot of gun right people will say, you're the one who wants to take my guns away. That's not exactly right. I want to move your guns. I want them out of the public. I want them in a place where if you want to get to them, you got to go through a lot in order to get to them. And in time of emergency, if there should be a military call-up, everybody knows who's supposed to have a weapon, who is trained, and knows what in the hell they're doing. Should the public have access to a hunting rifle, for instance, for, single shot, bolt action, something like that? Severely regulated in the same kind of way? Suppose so. Should revolvers be available? Probably, I suppose so. You're also talking about, 6, maybe 7 shots, depending. But I'm also of the opinion that rifles are really semi-automatic weapons, firearms, are designed for one thing and one thing only: killing a lot of things dead really quickly. Now, I know full well that now that I've put that out there, I will probably end up hearing about it later. Sorry, that's my opinion. And it's predicated on the idea that my kid's school should not become, like I told Brigid, my kid's school should not become a bunker like Beirut. So...
And I do respect your opinion. But under current law, we do have the right to bear arms. And from the interpretation as I have seen it, I mean, basically, there are a number of things I can argue against the whole idea of having a centralized barracks with all the guns in there, and you have to sign them out and all that stuff. There's a number of things I could go with that, but I'm not going to start that up tonight. It's just that effectively, the idea of state militias is what we now refer to as the National Guard. You have the Ohio National Guard or the Ohio Air National Guard and so forth. We also have the reserves, which are not quite the same. But in the end, here's my issue with that interpretation about the whole, National Guard being the point, is that the National Guard is under control of the federal government.
Well, hold on a second.
For example,
well, hold on a second, because I'm trying to remember about something. By the way, Brigid, welcome back. It was the crap. I forgot who the hell it was. The Little Rock 9, I think is who it was.
Yeah, I know. Birmingham.
Right. Okay. So what had happened was it was the 50s. It was desegregation.
Mm-hmm.
Forgive me. I'm giving everybody the cliff notes on this one. And the black kids were going to be into a white school, and the local white populace was none too happy about it, and even the governor, I believe it was, basically it was either the governor or the mayor, I forget who it was, basically came out and said he was just not having it either.
It was the mayor.
Okay.
The governor is the one who stepped in and activated the National Guard to respond to that situation. And they escorted those students to their classes. Now, that is an example of a state of emergency that, you know, the state can call on its National Guard to do something. However, good example is just in the last decade, where we've been, you know, working on things over in the Middle East. The federal government can seize control of National Guard units on a whim. That's why you saw throughout the entire global war on terrorism, the activation of National Guard units, reserve units, and the deployment of those units.
Yep.
So in other words, if the government ever did go crazy, so to speak, all they got to do is say, okay, you guardsmen and reservists, you're now under federal control. And while, the governor could just say, nope, we're seceding or whatever, one state's National Guard doesn't amount to much when compared to the total of the U.S. federal forces.
Mm-hmm. Good point.
And that therein lies the problem of the whole argument, up, down, left, and right.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I've seen the meme that's been going around on Facebook too. I support the troops up until I have to put a bullet in one of their heads because they want to come after my guns. Have you seen that one?
Well, I have not, but that's...
See, back in the day, to be fair, back in the day, the federal government didn't have, you know, automatic weapons. Everybody was pretty much on equal footing.
Yeah.
There wasn't much variation in terms of firearm. You might have a Brown Bess, or you might have a Kentucky long rifle. That's basically as varied as it gets.
Yeah, it was like you said, it was a level playing field.
Nowadays, with the advances that we've made in firearms technology, you know, our military has state-of-the-art gear.
Yep.
Now, do I agree that that same gear should be owned by civilians? No.
I'm sorry. I'm just suddenly thinking of the glorified Vespa with a gun on it coming up against a Sherman tank. I'm sorry. I'm just yeah.
He's referencing a list of goofy ass military equipment that had actually been implemented that we went over on a Friday show a few weeks back.
And it was basically a Vespa with a gun strapped onto it.
Yeah. To where the seat pad was on top of the chamber of the gun. It was actually a recoilless rifle.
Oh yes, and it was French.
Yeah, it was France. Because they wanted to give their airborne troops mobile anti-tank and light artillery capability, to which I say, okay, America was able to do that, and we didn't have to use a Vespa. We just gave them man-portable recoilless rifles.
Yeah. Oh, and yes, only because forgive me, I completely missed over TD. Hi.
No.
And by the way, folks, this is the first time I'm doing this. I still have a little bit of this beer left. I'm not even going to bother. Seriously, here you go. It's beer. So it's done.
But as I was saying, do I think civilians should have, for example, rocket launchers or recoilless rifles or
hand grenades or
machine guns? No, I don't. But at the same time, I have to point out that we did not necessarily have an easy time in Afghanistan. And yeah, they might have had a handful of advanced weapons, but for the most part, you know what they were using?
Yep.
Enfield rifles from the First World War. Bolt action.
Because A, they could, B, that's what they had, and C, they probably did pretty much the same thing that the American Revolutionary Forces did.
Guerrilla warfare.
Yep. You know, they don't tell us that in school anymore, but that's exactly what it was.
Now, with that in mind, consider the words of Yamamoto.
Wait, who?
I believe it was Admiral Yamamoto.
Ah, okay.
I would never invade the U.S. There would be a gun behind every blade of grass.
Yeah, and see, there is some understanding and expectation of all that. And here's the problem why I don't want to, I really didn't want to do too deep a dive on this whole damn thing. We kind of have to, any discussion of the Second Amendment has to go through the meta question. What is its actual purpose? What is it trying to accomplish?
Too bad it was written some 200 and some odd years ago. Close enough. Too bad it was written so long ago that we can't ask any of the guys that wrote it.
Yeah.
Then again, you know, they'd probably look at us funny because, you know, we're speaking modern English, and they'd probably have no clue what we were talking about.
Yeah, to a certain degree.
But one thing I do want, before we do jump off of the topic, which I'm absolutely fine with, there is one thing I do want to point out.
Yep.
Even if the civilians are armed, granted, bolt action rifles, maybe a semi-automatic rifle here and there, which is, for example, I hate to bring it up, but it is typically the bolt action and the semi-automatic weapons that are used in these mass shootings that we keep hearing about. But in terms of, oh, well, you know, if the government went rogue, you know, yeah, they've got semi-automatics and bolt actions, and the government has, you know, rocket launchers and machine guns and yada, yada, yada. Even if you got numbers on your side, it's not going to be a fair fight. But here's the thing that I do want to point out. The majority of our military at any given time is stationed stateside. Fort Hood, Texas, Fort Benning, Georgia, Fort Jackson, South Carolina, Fort Knox, Kentucky. They are surrounded by civilians on all sides. About the only time you're not is when you're at a naval port. And then you still only got 3 sides to work with. If it came push to shove, and, you know, federal government went rogue and ordered these service members to fire on the population, you got to remember something. These are American citizens. Yeah, they're soldiers, but they're still American citizens. And they took an oath to defend the people of the United States, the citizenry. They might have family that are standing just beyond the gates and, you know, are with the rest of the free people of the United States. And do you honestly think that they're going to follow an order to open fire in that situation?
Yeah, we've talked about that before. That and Brigid, I know full well that you chimed in on it at the time too.
Mhm.
You should not. You are legally obligated not to follow an illegal order.
Yeah.
And the sad part of it is, yeah, I can actually see the possibility of groups who have been basically, I'm trying really hard not to make this sound, nefarious or Dr. No-ish all of a sudden over here, but basically been conditioned is a bad word for it. I'm sorry. I can't think of a better way of describing it.
It is the proper term, though.
Okay. That you follow the order. And it's not your responsibility because you're not the one who put out the order, but you are supposed to follow the order.
Yeah. All I can say is, in my experience, it takes a special kind of crazy to be able to willingly follow an order like that. I mean, we are talking apocalypse now level crazy. And I will admit, there are such crazy people in the military, because guess what? There's such crazy people in the general population. If you look at the military and the general population and you divvy them up into all their little groups, you're going to find the ratios are just about the same.
Yeah.
So yeah, that one guy might fire off a round, but after that, the guy next to him is probably going to go ahead, knock his ass out, and take his gun. And
hope.
If it ever did come down to, the government turning, the federal government or state government turning tyrannical, all it's going to take is, the realization that shit, our post is completely surrounded by civilians who outnumber us, 1,000 to 1. All that's going to happen is they're going to say, well, do I listen to the assholes who are telling me to effectively screw over the idea of law in the United States? Or do I side with the people of the United States?
Well, I hate to say that some of it is going to depend on their political affiliation too.
That too.
And
But
I say that because I had someone who is on active duty in the Army that threatened to put a bullet in my brain because I was attending some of, the Occupy Wall Street protests. And that was the only reason why he threatened me. But he said if he was given the order to fire on me, he would have no problem doing it.
well, that goes to that special kind of crazy again.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. All right. Okay. We're gonna kind of use. I don't blame you. All right. Let me dovetail off of that for a second to kind of steer us a little bit different. I got into a discussion with somebody who tried to use the knife attack in China from 2014, I think is what it was, as their argument that, guns may kill people, but people can get knives and kill people too. Now, I went ahead and I said, okay, let me do a little bit of research, and I found it. I forget however many people it was, but that were killed versus injured. It was something like 130 injured, 30 something like that that were killed.
At the Las Vegas shooting?
No. It was 2014 China. It was
a knife attack.
Yeah. And here's what I ended up finding out. It was 8 people 6 men, 2 women, with knives in a coordinated terrorist attack with a terrorist separatist organization at 9:30 p.m. in a train station. And per person on average, they killed 4.75 people as an average. And I had to point out, one kid with one gun killed, how many was it? Per person? The kid with a gun killed 3 times more people with effectively no real game plan. And then he gave me shit because I was saying, well, I don't think that he exactly didn't have a game plan. He went ahead, he came in, he pulled the fire alarm, everybody came in, and he started shooting. It's like, okay, you got to quibble over me saying that he didn't have a game plan versus he did? Okay, fine. A coordinated group who were politically motivated went ahead into a high target environment and got less than 5 people apiece. And one kid was 3 times better at killing people than them. Well, now, I didn't say it, but I really wanted to go, where is your God now? But here's the thing. This person continued to argue with me, brought in a whole bunch of other things to try and steer away from and add different pieces of the whole damn thing, and brought in the fact that they went to a party one time. They are a carry license owner. They had an encounter with somebody who did not appreciate that. Forgive me. Okay, I'm telling you right up now. I'm probably going to get some shit for having said it this way, but I'm sorry. Them's the breaks, folks. Dem faggots on the road with me. All right, you get the idea? Mm-hmm. And this person went ahead that was arguing with me and basically said, I regret that I did not have my gun with me, because if I had, I would have gotten to shoot this piece of garbage, their word garbage, because this was attempted vehicular homicide. I pointed out, if you volunteered this information and said that this person was, quote, human garbage, you've now relegated them to being less than human, less than worthy, and that in and of itself should be reason enough for you not to carry, to want to take your gun and not carry it. Because if you are supposedly a responsible and well-trained gun owner and theoretically user, you are supposed to keep your weapon as an absolute last effort, because you don't get a second chance at bringing somebody back from the dead if you kill them. And more importantly, what is the first rule of fighting? Never fight angry, because you screw up. And they did not like this line of reasoning at all. I was going to screen cap it. I was going to screen cap the whole thing and put it into HCTV on Facebook. They already deleted the whole damn thing. So I have nothing except my word on what happened. But seriously, if you, in a stressful situation, get mad, and who doesn't, that's one thing. But after the fact, to say that you would put a bullet into somebody, into their head, did admit to it, and this is a long time later, and you're still angry at this person and willing to call them human garbage? I'm sorry, but the meta part of my brain suddenly perks up and goes, excuse me, the point of order here, Your Honor. I don't know which of you wants to go ahead and play with that one a little bit. Brigid, you might have something to say on this one because, well, you know, hormones and adrenaline and all that happy horse shit, it's much more your area of expertise, technically.
But, well, yeah, if people are doing things in anger in the heat of the moment, they get sloppy. They're not as careful. And, yeah, that would make for a worse, more dangerous situation.
You see, the military and the police force share something in common. We have something called escalation of force.
Okay.
It's not. I mean, it's still important to the military, but it's not as restricted as it is for the police force because war is hell.
Mm-hmm.
But in terms of the police force, they are limited in their reaction by the escalation of force. They are only allowed to use lethal force, i.e., firearms, when there is a clear and present danger to the life of a civilian, a fellow officer.
One of the biggest problems that we got with that, though, as we've seen, is that gets real funky and fuzzy real fast, unfortunately.
Well,
but go on.
That's another thing, is what a lot of people don't realize. Even if you are a civilian who owns a firearm, you too also are subject by law to the escalation of force. That's why a lot of states, before they'll let you have a conceal and carry permit, they put you, or they tell you you have to attend a class, which is exactly what happened to me when I applied in Ohio. I ended up going to take a class. Now, did I myself need the class? Probably not, because, you know, everything that the class went over, I had already been over for several years in the military. But the same rules generally apply. Now, it differs by state because, you know, Texas has a rather loose interpretation of the castle law. The whole idea of, you step foot on my property, I'm going to shoot you.
That one, okay.
But most states, you do not get to fire on a trespasser. You don't even get to fire on a robber. It is only in a situation where they pose a reasonable danger to the life of a person that you are allowed to use deadly force. And you have to be very careful with that, because in cases such as, you know, the way I understand it from Ohio, if you feel deadly force is necessary, you better shoot to kill.
Yeah.
Because if you just wound them, and yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, just so that everybody heard it properly, Brigid, what was it that you said?
They'll sue you.
Yeah. I want to make sure that folks are really clear about this. My father was a cop for over 30 years back on Long Island. He was fortunate in that he, from what I understood, only ever had to draw his weapon twice in service, which is, when you consider it, a really good track record. When you train to shoot, you are typically aiming at very specific points on the silhouette that they put up on the range for you to qualify. you're going for a headshot, generally speaking. And there's one really, really scary reason why. You can't put Kevlar on somebody's face.
Well, you can, but it's not very easy.
Unless your name is Deadshot, in which case, that's a whole other thing.
But one thing I did want to touch on is, yeah, Brigid brings up a good point that, if somehow the legal system screws up and, this person gets out, they sue you for damages. For example, you shoot them in the leg and it breaks their leg or something. But the main thing is, and don't shake your head, because there have been people who have won lawsuits for, like, breaking into somebody's house and falling on the knife tray. And
no. I will finish your thing. I'll tell you why I'm shaking my head. Because it's not what you think.
But the thing that I was trying to get to is, if you deem lethal force necessary, you have to use lethal force. Because if you just shoot them in the leg, yeah, it might stop them, it might bring them down, but it also causes something that is a rather sore issue when it comes to the justice system: undue pain and suffering. That's why we use rather quick means for executions. We don't, draw and quarter people.
So here's the reason why I was shaking my head. Brigid, I kind of need your help on this one. From the hip to the knee, how many bones are there?
Ask me off the top of my head. Oh my god.
Bones. You're a medical person. Bones.
I have to think.
In your thigh.
Hip to the knee. There's 1, 2.
Big bones, right through the middle of all that muscle. Is it 1 or is it 2?
It's 2.
Here's the reason why I was shaking my head and whatnot, and this is why I'm putting you on the spot. Let's say somebody's got a 38 special, because that's what they got.
And
you get hit
in your femur.
What happens when that femur shatters?
Yeah. Well, it has to be reconstructed if they can reconstruct it, which, yeah.
So pain, suffering, bone chips shattered all over inside of the muscle. The marrow itself damaged, possibly beyond repair. Although that could be theoretically reconstructed, but that's a whole other thing these days. And very likely the possibility of hitting a blood vessel that could have you spill out blood at an alarming rate. No?
Well, if they hit you in the artery, you can bleed to death. And
femoral
artery.
Femoral artery, you got about 30 seconds to a minute to get it under control, or you're screwed.
Yeah, and for those of you that were over there in the live chat when I mentioned about that bring them back item, yeah, if you're shooting as theoretically you're supposed to, and please forgive me for having said that without vomiting into my own throat, that's it. Game over. Done. Gone. And even worse, if you were supposed to use lethal force, because that's what your excuse was, and you missed, never mind you hit them somewhere that was non-vital. Okay? You missed. Well, now comes the problem where you've got to deal with the legal set that says that was an illegal discharge because you were uncontrolled. Can somebody make that argument and make it stick?
Somebody has.
Yeah.
And honestly, if you are that bad of a shot, you probably shouldn't have a firearm as your go-to for self-defense.
Yeah, that's another one I'm sick and tired of hearing about. The anecdotal story about somebody who was had an order of protection from a husband that they were estranged from, and if they had been allowed to keep a gun on them, they would have not been shot by the guy when he broke into the place that they were staying at. Yeah, I'm gonna
Not so much.
no, not so much. And on top of that one, I'm gonna go with the whole: is somebody gonna keep their gun with them on their hip 24/7? I'm guessing most people
Take it
even
off to
take
sleep
their,
and stuff.
or you know what,
After you take a shower.
ubiquitously, we've got our phones. Some of us have got phones, and it's a mini computer or whatever. I don't keep this on my hip all the time. I put it down. Sometimes I leave it in the kitchen. Sometimes it's not. Sometimes I have to log into Chrome to tell it to turn itself on so I can find it, because I forgot where the hell. Oh, that's right. It's on the bed, and I forgot it's where. It's a phone. It's my alarm clock. Leave me alone. Don't give me shit. Fuck y'all. But I mean, you know what? Hold on a second, because Devin put a word out there that I think is probably one of the things to wrap all this stuff together with, and to get specifically off of citizenry with weapons. Devin had said, in my opinion, and reminding everybody, this is opinion. We're no legal scholars anywhere along the board. Police need more de-escalation training than they get, so they don't go for their guns as often. When all you have is a hammer, as they say, everything looks like a nail. And forgive me for continuing that metaphor, you've hit the problem right on the head. We don't pay enough for emergency services that we have. We don't. As a general rule, here in the United States, we try our damnedest to pay as little in taxes as possible. How can I put that out there? School districts. School districts all over the country get supplemented, theoretically, with gambling, Powerball, Lotto. That money is supposed to go into the state funds for education. I would really like to find out what the numbers are on that kind of thing. Police forces are told to do more with less. I had always thought that the first couple of years, my dad rode with a partner in his car. And he was a cop from 68 or 69. So through the 70s, 80s, 90s, he was a single man car. Pretty much everybody in his district was a single man car. And that's, to me, ludicrous. Truly
scary.
It's truly ludicrous. Because if you have single man cars, when there's a call out to a place, you've got a lot more cars, and it looks like you got more people. And that's just insane to me. Now, maybe I'm an idiot, because, I grew up on things like Adam 12, where the guys had partners all the time. But why couldn't there be? Why couldn't we pay more for better training, for more people to be on the force, to be properly trained? And how many times have I mentioned training? Because that is one of the biggest things. Why can't there be more? They did it. They do it in Canada. They did it over there in Australia. We have so much money, supposedly. Why couldn't we just, I don't know, take a page from somebody else? I've done more than my fair share of talking tonight. I'm done. You guys, whatever it is that you want to do with it at this point, because I'm done.
To be fair, I wasn't even here for half the damn show.
You know what? I don't care, man. This is your opportunity to pick up the slack. It's about time, you know. I gave you a freaking raise and everything.
So let's use
details. Don't quibble.
Let's use the standard. Let's use the standard for the American workplace. So a 15% raise at a base rate.
Whoa! Wait a minute. What do you mean a raise?
You said you gave me a raise.
Yeah. I did.
A 15% raise for a base rate of 0 is what?
Still 0.
You have my thoughts and prayers. How's that?
I'd rather have tots and prayers. At least tots and pears. At least you can eat them.
It's a very strange dish. Tater tots and pears. I'll have to try that sometime. Last time I saw something like that, it was on a school menu.
Yeah, that's a whole other thing. Don't get me started on the idea of the lunch lady pulling out a. Oh God, I just suddenly had the image in my head. Over at BJ's, I've seen this plastic almost gun that's you're supposed to cram snowballs into the thing, and you pull it back almost like it's a Nerf launcher, and it fires your snowballs for you. I was just thinking, yeah, do that.
With tater tots.
Well, I was actually thinking meatballs, but yeah, sure, same thing.
It's funny you should talk about a snowball launcher, considering the story that I've recounted numerous times. Don't use high air pressure to fire a snowball, especially at unprotected skin, because, well, when you have frozen water and you apply a great amount of force to it, it develops a layer of super compacted water that, we refer to that as ice.
Ice hurts.
Ice that develops into a very thin layer on top of a rather squishy center can get really sharp. And when it's traveling at several hundred feet per second, it can produce some rather unforeseen consequences.
Yeah, this is now starting to sound like we need to arm ourselves by watching Mythbusters. That's what it sounds like.
Oh, I can already do that.
I don't.
Hey. I've currently got probably about I'll say about 5 long guns and probably about 5 handguns that I currently own. None of which are even loaded right now. I know I sometimes come off as the kind of crazy guy that sleeps with a gun next to his pillow, but yep.
It is.
And yes, some of you may be looking at that and thinking, is that
that's shotgun? That was my granddad. Here, put the video on me for a second. Yes, this was my granddaddy's 12 gauge shotgun with the plastic. Yes, plastic. We kind of talked about this once a little while ago.
Those who know guns may be confused looking at that, thinking that it's a semi-automatic. It actually isn't. That's a straight pull bolt action.
There it is.
We found that out the hard way. Shu gave me the specs, and I went ahead and did all the research.
Yep. You know what the fun part of it is? I'm pretty sure I've still got the key. I'm not entirely certain. I hope so.
Well, for the most part, my guns are all locked up. There is one gun that is not locked up, and that is my revolver. And it is not sitting in any conspicuous place, but it is something that I can quickly get a hold of. And next to it, I do have a speed loader. For those of you who don't know about it, a speed loader is effectively a clip for a revolver. You've got a little knob on it. You put the 6 bullets into the speed loader, turn the knob, it locks them into place. When you need it, you go ahead, flick out the cylinder, put the cartridges into the cylinder, turn the knob, it releases them into the cylinder. You're ready to go.
Yep, my dad had a number of those when he was still rocking with the 38 revolver.
Service 38.
Yep.
But yeah, I do keep that one accessible in the event that, somebody who may threaten danger to myself or my roommate ever manages to, break into my apartment. Never had it happen, but rather be safe than sorry. But again, I'm talking about a revolver. Effectively the same revolver that your dad would have carried. The only difference being is mine can load 38 and it can load 357.
Okay.
You can put 38 special into a 357, but you can't put 357 into a 38 special, if that makes sense.
Wow. Wow, I'm sorry. I just had every bad dating nightmare go through my head right about now. I really hope that came across cool. Whatever. Anyway.
But to this day, I've never had to use it. And there has been 1 or 2 occasions where somebody has come into my apartment unwelcomed. And that was a while ago, but I didn't feel the need to fire at them either. Generally, shouting was enough to get them to turn tail and run like the pants were on fire.
That's good. By the way, Bridge, you didn't you muted yourself, but I didn't see anything as far as to what was going on. I'm just hoping everything's okay. Just put it out there. Seeing as how we're close to closing up, anything else that you want to drop in before I have to, put Brigid on the spot, Joe? Because like I said, I mean, as far as I'm concerned, I really don't need to say anything else.
Yeah. If you feel that you have an issue where you may need to defend yourself in your own home, if you're going to use a firearm, please make sure you're proficient with it. If not, there's always the baseball bat. Good old American staple. Even if you don't play ball, I still think you should own a baseball bat. Me, I don't need to own a baseball bat because I've got a wrecking bar. Sure, you've seen my wrecking bar before.
I do believe that. So yeah,
the big long green one.
I think so. Yeah,
that has to be turned diagonally to get put in my truck. It's an old wrecking bar for removing tank tracks.
Yep.
And you thought your tire iron hurt.
Well, I fortunately don't have one. By the way, just for the record, have I ever fired Grandpa's shotgun? No. 2 reasons. 1, I don't have any ammo. So that works like that. So what I've got over here is a bludgeon. Okay, keep that in mind.
Well,
2,
there is something to note about. Go ahead.
Yeah, and 2, my youngest brother, who was in the Air Force, has fired it before, a long time ago, and told me if you're going to take it out to fire it, bring a set of vice grips, because you're going to need that in order to free up the friggin' bolt, because it's not in the greatest of shapes. So that's another reason. So for me, it's like, I would much rather do, target practice with like, a glorified BB gun, a 22.
I suppose the proper term would be step grandfather, but I have my step grandfather's old 22. It's one of the tube fed semi-automatics. Have I fired it? Yes. Do I fire it anymore? No. Why? Because about 50 years of cosmoline inside of it. It's a preservative they use for guns that go into storage. Has rendered it completely inoperable. To the point where even pulling the bolt back, locking the bolt back, loading it like it's a bolt action, and then, riding the bolt forward till it's seated properly. I fire it, it'll fire, but it won't even eject the cartridge.
That doesn't sound good.
No. But there is something to note about your shotgun. Even though it's locked, even though it's even though you have no ammunition for it, it's still a pretty damn good home defense item to have. Why? Because usually all somebody needs to hear is the very telltale ch-chack. You immediately know it's a shotgun, and you immediately know you're getting the hell out of there.
It's not quite going to have the sound that you think. I'll show you that in a second.
Granted, yours will sound a little differently, especially considering you're going to have to get, like a piece of pipe, put it over the bolt, and just stand on it to get it back. But yeah, your typical pump action shotgun. You don't want to do that. You'll bend the barrel.
At this point, I don't just how old this thing is. I don't think it matters.
Just butt stroke.
I don't know that I can do that. Huh.
You might have
Probably.
to pull.
I might have to check the.
It might have one of those sears inside where you have to pull it out like a little bit. Yeah, there you go.
Here it is. So, video. There we go. So this is what a bolt action shotgun, which by the way loads up underneath here. You remember those old ones?
Yeah.
Yeah. For those of you that play Doom, that's what we're talking about.
That's a tube magazine.
There you go. So this is what this sounds like.
But even that is enough to make somebody think twice about breaking in.
So I had to push the bolt back in. Otherwise, it's not going to figure out what the hell to do. Anyway.
But especially for those of you who own a pump action shotgun, you don't even need to keep it loaded. Just just because the way it's designed, that sound of just work in the action is enough to make most men think twice.
One would hope, unless your name is Ashy Slashy. It's a whole other thing for another time. Brigid, your big opportunity over here while I put this thing away.
About what would you
Whatever.
like to talk about?
Considering that I had to, I'm sorry, safely away without breaking through the floor because this thing is monstrously heavy. Considering that tonight was supposed to be, pretty much whatever the hell. Yeah. Anything that you want to finish off with, feel free. Could be about this, could be about anything. Could be picking on me from last week. I don't know.
Well, my husband and I went out to dinner last night after work and got into a discussion about just how sick our society has become and that this is a symptom of it. And it's horrifying to me. We don't know what to do with this as far as wrapping our brains around just everything. So between having 45 where he is and NRA people being, NRA people, and I don't even know what to say or think anymore. I don't know. And I keep wavering back and forth between another day, another school shooting, oh boy, and being completely outraged and horrified.
Yeah. I can most assuredly understand that.
And a society where you have to live in fear is no kind of society at all. And that's coming from fear from all sides. People carry weapons because they're afraid something's going to happen to them, and people who don't carry them are afraid that the people with them are going to do something to them, and just so much fear.
Yeah, funny enough, that was an argument that I made with somebody else one time too. People carry guns because of MAD, mutually assured destruction. You're not going to shoot me because I'm going to shoot you. What the hell kind of thing is that?
It's not civil.
I agree that it's not ideal, but there are ghosts in the idea of humanity. I mean, for the longest time, we have lived an existence of just fear. Fear of being eaten by, some random thing, and all you've got to do to defend yourself with is a sharp stick. And fear has been a defining factor of human action for pretty much the entirety of our history. And yeah, nowadays we kind of wish that we'd evolved past that, but we haven't yet.
Really hope that we could.
Yeah.
And I was just going to say that Shujin, this probably looks really familiar. This is My Security 6. And it's not what you would call high capacity, though I can still fire it as fast as I can pull the trigger. 6 rounds. If I ain't hitting them in 6 rounds, I ain't hitting them.
Yeah.
But I don't keep it loaded.
Nice and empty.
First step, this is very heavy for a handgun. So it is very easy for me to hold it like this and bludgeon if I need to. Secondly, why choose a revolver rather than, say, a semi-automatic for home defense?
I know the answer to that one.
For the same reason that I just gave him about the shotgun. Fairly loud action.
And there's another piece to it. And I think this is the very last couple of seconds. Because when all is said and done, that simple tech, it won't jam. You will get all 6 shots, assuming that a bullet doesn't misfire, which is probably one of the scariest possibilities. Well, the most dangerous munition is the one that doesn't explode when it's supposed to. You know that.
Mm-hmm. Seen that happen many a time. I've seen somebody get a little carried away and fire their M249 lightweight machine gun for such a period that the barrel turned red hot, superheated the chamber, and it kept firing long after they took their hands off it.
That's scary.
And for those
Then the barrel promptly melted.
For those of you that are wondering, does that actually happen in quote-unquote real life? Yeah. Yeah, it used to. In car engines. Once upon a time, you would have to worry about your car continuing to run a little bit after you turned it off because it still had stuff that would ignite because of heat and bad fuel performance and filters and such. Not the same thing. Unless, of course, you threw a rod, but that's a whole other story for another time.
That's why, if you want reliability, drive a diesel.
But
no igniting components. It ignites its stuff through compression.
But we'll get into Motorhead stuff another time. The only thing that I want to say, which is not exactly part and parcel of all this, but to make folks understand, we are not lawyers. We are not versed in constitutional law. We are not versed in the inner workings of the NRA or have any specific opinions other than this is what we think because of this is what we've been around and what we've observed and what we've thought about stuff. We are in no way making proclamations of what should or should not be. This is just the way that we view stuff. And we are going to recognize that you're all going to have your opinions on how people could see it. And that's okay. We're civil. We'll talk through. And we will continue to have a discussion. But we may disagree on a lot of pieces. But I'm pretty sure we can all pretty well agree. Kids shouldn't have to be ducking bullets when they're trying to do trigonometry. They may think otherwise, but we know that that's not such a great idea. As always, everybody, thank you very much for being with us for tonight. We hope that you found something worthwhile in all our perspectives and found something to think about through it all. All of you guys that are over there in the live chat, thank you guys for making it down. I really do appreciate it. So, Devin, Stephanie, Trippin, and TD, I know you were there earlier. So thank you guys for hanging out with us tonight. And I'm very glad that we didn't have just me talking for 2 hours because, like I said, I've done it before, but really nobody wants that.
I could have talked, but the problem is I wasn't able to hear you. And yeah, I could have just loaded up the YouTube page and, had the video running, but that's like a 2-minute to whatever delay. It makes a conversation very difficult.
Yeah, I mentioned that earlier, that plus it would have been a hell of a lot of bandwidth, and really nobody needs to be playing around with that. So, Joey, thank you for putting up with all this stuff, and good job on you on getting everything finally solved out, man. Thank you.
My frustration was great. However, I am the gun owner. I'm a gun enthusiast. But I will tell you now, if mankind was at a point where we no longer needed them, I would happily beat my sword into a plowshare.
Yep. And for the record, the only reason I've got mine is because it was Grandpa's. And like I said, I'm not entirely sure where the key is for that lock. And I know that I bought that lock. Trust me, I know I bought that lock. It like I said, it'll make for a really nice bludgeon one day, I'm sure. And Brigid, also, I'm glad you were able to make it. And you and everybody stay safe out there with all the water and everything you guys are dealing with.
Yeah, I need to get a snorkel.
Come on, you know.
I know what?
Really? I thought I was bad at trying to pimp myself. Jesus, come on.
Oh, you can find me on Facebook, Brigid Bitch. You can send me a friend request there. Or you can go check out my blog at brigidbitch2112.wordpress.com.
Now, unfortunately, I don't have any information as far as to what's going to be happening for Beyond the Trailer Park, but of course, you can check up on them at beyondthetrailerpark.com. They are typically recording and doing their stuff over on Monday nights. Check for times and stations and tune in your DVR or whatever the hell it is you kids are using these days. I don't care what the hell it is. And of course, Dalan, thank you very much for all that you end up doing. I can't wait to hear how he splices up last week's show. But yeah, Dalan's Dalan's a good guy. Thank you, man, for all that you do. If you'd like to go ahead and find all of our social media links as well as contact information, take a swing over to holycrapthevlogcast.com. If you want to subscribe to the audio-only version podcast, you can do it from over there. By the way, it's not immediately apparent where the link is for that. So if you go looking on the webpage, you'll see subscribe to Holy Crap the Vlogcast, and you click on that link, and that actually brings you right back to the main page. There's a little, I don't know how to describe it, but the radio ring image that's there, that's the actual subscription link. I know. It's a thing. I'm trying to figure out how to work that better. Whatever the case, we'll figure it from there. If you'd like to leave a voicemail message for us, phone number is still 859-HCTV-554, 859-4288-554. We'll be looking forward to talking to you guys again next week. As I mentioned, 408 is 408
208.
What the hell is it right now? I can't do math. I was doing it. I was trying to do the number right quick in my head, and multiplication. Just okay. I know what it's supposed to. Yeah, I'm doing good. 208 is 4 years. That's why everything got all kind of screwed up in my head. Thank you for being part of it so far, and we'll be looking forward to seeing you guys next week because, well, I'm sure that there's something more that we've got to talk about. And I just hope we don't get a DMCA hit for this one. We'll be back again next week because we'll have things we'll want to talk about. I will too. Happy 50th anniversary, Fred. Maybe you guys will figure that one out.
Yeah.
Until next week, you all take very good care of yourselves. I wish you the peace I no longer have. I wish you the strength that I've learned. I wish you well. And as always, my lady, it's going to be 13 years later. I am still in love. Matane Fujin. I love you. I miss you. Dream of me. Till the next time we get together, everybody, as always, good night.